Hello and welcome. My name is Amber Beebe, and this is our second in our gut health series, our St. Luke's Bariatric Nutrition Healthy Living series. And I'm so happy to welcome you back for our second session. And we're going to skip right ahead to the course outline. Today, we're going to talk about how your gut health affects weight management, which is surprising, actually, how it really affects our weight. The skills that we're going to cover today are define how the bacteria in our gut affects our weight, the role of mindful eating, how to improve our diet to improve our gut and help lose weight, and describe how our brains and gut are connected, which is mind blowing. No pun intended, right? So, the first thing we're going to talk about is how does bacteria in our gut affect our weight, okay? So when we eat food, remember the good guys and the bad guys that we just talked about in our intro to microbiome session. When we eat food, our gut breaks it down into small pieces, and only the smallest pieces get absorbed into our blood. The rest is eliminated as waste material for in our stool. In other words, not all the calories in the food we eat get into our body and increase our weight. Some bacteria are able to break it down much better than the food than others. So adding calories to our body and thereby increasing our weight. In these types of bacteria, this could also be making it harder for you to lose weight. We're just starting to understand the role of gut bacteria in obesity, and we haven't come into foolproof treatments to end obesity. The bottom line is we keep coming back to how our bodies absorb calories. If you eat sugary foods, super easy to absorb foods, you will in fact be absorbing more calories in. If you eat more fiber containing foods, you will absorb less calories and fill up on fiber rich foods. So, sugary beverages, sweeteners can be the worst. They also feed the bad bacteria, often making you want more and more and more. So, these bacteria in our guts actually affect our brains and send messages for that more to feed these nasty bugs, right? The bad guys. They also affect our appetite hormones, so we cannot hear the messages that we're full or even hungry sometimes. Now, fiber feeds the good bacteria and sugar feeds the bad bacteria. Okay, that's the bottom line. And so if you're talking about wanting to lose weight, that is like, that's it. We can end the class right now, today, this session. But let's talk about what types of foods can we really help our gut and how that will help with our weight. So more fiber, the more colorful, the better, right? Eating more foods high in probiotics, things like yogurt, kefir, tempeh. Tempeh might not be something you've had before, but it is a fermented soybean, like a cake, almost like a tofu. I mean, but a lot more meaty. Like it's a lot easier to substitute as meat. Also, foods high in prebiotic, which is the fiber foods, blueberries, strawberries, apples. Those are really high in fiber. Raspberries. Reduce the consumption of red meat. Doesn't mean eliminate, it just means reduce it. And then the biggest thing to limit are the low nutrient and highly processed foods like crackers, breads, anything with lots of sugar, artificial sweeteners, additives, or preservatives, right? So what the reason with the reduction in red meat is carnitine, a compound found in red meat, may interact with the gut bacteria, and red meat has the highest level of carnitine. So opt for fatty fish, chicken, turkey, or plant-based proteins, and of course, limit those low nutrient, high processed foods. So the greatest thing is all these stores now have pre-roasted chickens, they have pre-done vegetables, they have all kinds of things that make life more convenient, especially if you live alone. There's really no reason that you can't have frozen cauliflower and the meat's already prepared. There's lots and lots of options. A lot of people have air fryers and crock pots and all kinds of things to help us cook these foods. So it's really easier than ever to eat whole food. So if we keep coming back to these same foods in almost all of our classes, it's not rocket science, right? High protein, high fiber is the best for weight loss and weight maintenance, and nearly zero sugar, as it feeds this bad bacteria, which can be detrimental to your gut health. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about high fiber foods and how this really helps us lose weight, right? Um, Most of us know this, but it's nice to kind of go through a little bit of sciencey stuff. So we'll go read the slide first, as far as like, general ideas. Foods rich in fiber help increase the beneficial gut microbiota. And these foods diminish pathogenic bacteria in the gut. That's fantastic news. So prebiotics, including polysaccharides, oligosaccharides, and other fermentable dietary fibers, increase the amount of beneficial gut microbiota, most notably certain so Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus. And those are bacteria that diminish the pathogen populations. And you might have heard of like lactobacillus, that's usually found in the dairy, like the yogurt or kefir. And it also fortifies the gut barrier and regulates the inflammatory response. So when we have this inflammatory response, it is the white noise, and we don't know if we've eaten enough, right? That's one thing that we've talked about in prior classes. Resistant starch is the type of fermentable dietary fiber that cannot be digested by human enzymes in the small intestine, and therefore moves into the colon, where it undergoes fermentation by the gut, which is good. Good bacteria, good bugs. Whole grains. These are grains that have not been refined. They are digested by the healthy gut bacteria like bifidobacteria and may aid in weight loss. All of the whole grains in that sense. Fruits and vegetables also contain different fibers that are also good for gut bacteria, as well as nuts and seeds. Things like that are rich in polyphenol, like dark chocolate, green tea, these polyphenols cannot be digested or broken down by beneficial bacteria. Um, sorry, they can also promote the growth of good bacteria. My apologies. The harmful to your gut are sugar, artificial sweeteners, aspartame, saccharin, can reduce beneficial bacteria in the intestine. So we just want to be cautious of those. So what is this? We talked about it in the first class, the short chain fatty acid. This is a chemical that is produced by eating more plant foods. And so it can also be increased by high fiber diet. And what does this short chain fatty acid do, right? It also can be improved by taking our vitamins and minerals. So short chain fatty acid produced when certain species of gut bacteria break down fiber. So one of these short chain fatty acids is called propionate. This chemical has been shown to increase certain hormones called peptide, YY, and leptin. And short chain fatty acids can also synthesize essential amino acids. So these produce chemicals that make you feel hungry or full. Your body produces a number of different hormones that affect your appetite, including leptin, ghrelin, which is, or ghrelin is how you could say it, peptide, YY. And some studies have shown that different bacteria in the gut can affect how much of these hormones are produced and whether you feel hungry or full. And these are chemicals, short chain fatty acids, that are produced when certain species of gut bacteria break down fiber. So there's been studies about all of this, and basically it can stimulate the natural GLP-1 hormone that's in our body when we eat the high fiber foods. Okay, so they study that sort of thing specifically. Other studies have shown that prebiotics or high fiber supplements, which contain compounds that are fermented by the gut bacteria, can also have a similar effect on our appetite. All right, so people who ate 16 grams of prebiotics per day for 2 weeks had higher levels of hydrogen. This shows that they're fermenting the gut, the fiber, the bacterial fermentation, less hunger, and higher levels of the hormones GLP-1 and peptide YY, which make you feel full. So anyway, we want to focus on these dietary changes and exercise, eating a diet rich in protein and fiber, especially the protein at each meal, can stimulate the peptide YY release, and regular exercise, particularly strength training and high intensity interval training, can also boost this level. Ghrelin is an appetite stimulating hormone. If you eat high protein and high fiber, get adequate sleep, and manage your stress, this hormone can be reduced. So in summary, your gut bacteria, summary of this slide, this section, your gut bacteria can produce chemicals that can help you make you feel full. By affecting your appetite, your bacteria may affect your weight and the role that they have in your weight. Okay, so how is this when we talked about what our objective is today, when we talk about the role of mindful eating? Okay, so we must slow down. We must eat and enjoy our foods and stop when we're full or not hungry anymore. Our hormones are trying to talk us out of eating more, right? You've heard of the head hunger, the stomach hunger, right? The good bacteria or good bugs impact our ability to regulate these hormones and thus make us want to eat more or less. If we have more bad bugs, then these bacteria want sugar and they scream for more. So learning to listen to our bodies can be very, very helpful. Okay, when the gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters such as serotonin, they're known to influence your mood, your cravings, and your appetite, which means an imbalance in your gut bacteria can lead to increased desire for unhealthy foods, overeating, which ultimately causes weight gain or weight recurrence. Improving our gut health can help restore the balance of these neurotransmitters and regulate appetite, making it easier to make healthier choices. Sleeve gastrectomy, a type of bariatric surgery, significantly affects gut neurotransmitters primarily through altering gut hormones release and nutrient sensing. These changes contribute to reduced appetite, increased satiety, and improved metabolic outcomes. Specifically, sleeve gastrectomy alters the level of hormones like ghrelin, which is associated with hunger, and GLP-1, which regulates appetite and glucose metabolism. Additionally, the surgery can impact the gut microbiome, which in turn influences this neurotransmitter production and function. So you can kind of see how the brain is working, how we are, reducing when we're hungry, the ghrelin is reduced and then we're satisfied, which helps the leptin hormone tells us to stop eating, right? So that's kind of how that all works in our gut and brain and how it's all connected. As we move on to next week, we are reminded how these things are all tied together and how taking care of stress and sleep and minimizing the inflammation can also protect our gut health. A diet rich in processed foods and sugar and unhealthy fats are known to disrupt this delicate balance of your gut microbiome. What we will cover over the next week, if you're experiencing chronic stress, and I would say a large percentage of our patients are, if you're not getting adequate rest and living a sedentary lifestyle, these all are linked to imbalances in our gut health, in our gut bacteria, and increased gut inflammation. So the bottom line of today's talk is eating more plant foods and increasing the short chain fatty acids in our guts will help us improve insulin sensitivity and increase our energy expenditure, critical for maintaining a healthy weight. And then these beneficial bacteria help regulate your appetite and reduce cravings for the unhealthy foods. So what's up next is much new research that talks about how important normal and healthy gut function is to help us lose weight and keep it off. As always, if you have any questions, please, please, please to send those to our email listed there on this slide. I added it to the rest of the classes. So you have that email, bariatricsupport@slhs.org. Thank you so much for joining us today.